Dr. Selena Voss had always found comfort in the quiet isolation of her research station. The small facility was perched on a barren moon, orbiting the gas giant Jareth 7, light-years away from the nearest habitable world. Here, in the cold silence of space, she studied alien ecosystems and strange life forms, never expecting to change the course of history. Selena wasn't a soldier or a diplomat. She wasn't part of any grand political plan. She was just a scientist, a lover of the unknown, always searching for the next discovery, the next marvel in the universe. Her team consisted of a handful of specialists, all dedicated to studying an ancient, unexplored alien structure located in a nearby asteroid field. The structure had been there for millennia, yet no one had dared to investigate it in any meaningful way. They had hoped to uncover new biological specimens, something to prove that life in the galaxy was even stranger than they'd imagined. But they had no idea what they were about to uncover. One quiet evening, as Selena analyzed samples from the asteroid field, an alert blinked across her screen. At first, she thought it was a glitch, nothing more than a flickering signal from their distant communication arrays. However, the signal was different. It wasn't random noise. It was a transmission. An alien transmission. The message was garbled, with strange symbols and unfamiliar sounds. Selena's heart raced. A signal from deep space, from a region of the galaxy no one had ever reached, was rare enough to capture anyone's attention. But this wasn't just any signal, it was structured. It was deliberate. Hours of decoding followed, with Selena and her team working frantically. They had to understand it. They had to find out what it meant. Slowly, piece by piece, Selena worked through the strange alien language. She had studied countless ancient languages before, but this one was different. It was intricate, layered with meaning beyond the immediate surface. Yet, with patience, the pieces fell into place. The message was a plea for help. A desperate cry from an alien civilization, one she had never heard of. Their galaxy was under siege by a force unlike any other. An unstoppable, godlike entity called the Collective was consuming everything in its path. Whole star systems, entire planets, nothing was spared. The message was clear. They were losing the war, and they needed help. But the most shocking part wasn't the desperate call itself. It was the final line of the message. Humanity's fleet is the only force that can stop the Collective. Selena sat back, stunned. Humanity? She had read stories about the legendary human fleet, a force from a time long ago, before Earth was lost. But those were just myths, stories passed down from generation to generation. No one believed they were real. Yet here, in front of her, was proof that the fleet existed, and that it was the only hope for the galaxy. Her team gathered around, each one processing the implications. But there was no time to waste. The message had made it clear the Collective was coming. If humanity's fleet existed, they needed to find it, fast. The question was, did humanity even know where the fleet was? Could they still control it? And if they did, would they even be willing to fight for a galaxy full of strangers? Before they could discuss further, a new alarm blared across the station. A strange object appeared on their sensors, an alien ship moving at an unimaginable speed. It was coming straight toward them, appearing out of nowhere. Selena's heart skipped a beat. There had been no warning, no sign of its presence before this moment. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its design was sleek, almost organic, with shimmering surfaces that seemed to pulse with energy. The signal it emitted was unlike the one they had just decoded. This wasn't a friendly call for help, it was a warning. The ship didn't speak to them directly. Instead, it broadcast a series of images and sounds, chaotic and distorted. But one thing was clear, the alien message was urgent. It seemed to be saying that the galaxy wasn't ready for the truth about humanity's fleet. The ship's crew was attempting to keep humanity's existence hidden for as long as possible, fearing that others would learn the truth and act too quickly. There were factions in the galaxy alien races who would prefer humanity to remain isolated and unaware of its true power. The truth was dangerous. If humanity's fleet was truly the last hope against the Collective, there were forces in the galaxy that would go to any length to ensure it never rose again, As Selena stood in the dim glow of her station's control room. The message she had decoded, the fleet, the sudden appearance of this alien ship, nothing made sense. She thought back to the myths, to the stories she'd learned as a child about humanity's legendary past. She had never imagined that one day these stories would come to life, let alone shape the fate of the galaxy. There was no time to waste. Selena had to make a choice. She could ignore the message, continue with her research, and leave the fate of the galaxy to the stars. Or she could answer the call. She could search for humanity's fleet, unearth the truth hidden for millennia, and risk everything in an effort to stop the collective. But first, she had to survive. And the warning from the alien ship was only the beginning. The galaxy was already changing, and Selena was right in the middle of it. The sudden appearance of the alien ship had shaken Dr. Selena Voss to her core. As the ship's ominous warning echoed in the control room of their research station, the tension in the room thickened. But that was only the beginning. The situation escalated far beyond what anyone could have expected. The next morning, the research station's communications were abruptly shut down. No warning. No explanation. The team found themselves cut off from the outside world. Attempts to re-establish contact were met with nothing but static. At first, they thought it was just a malfunction, something easily fixed by recalibrating their equipment. But as hours passed with no results, Selena's unease grew. And then came the message. It wasn't a regular transmission. The station's systems were hacked. Someone, or something, had accessed their secure channels. The screen flickered and displayed a simple text message, "You are not alone." It was followed by a warning in a language they hadn't deciphered yet, but the meaning was clear: their location had been compromised. They were being watched, and whoever was watching them had power far beyond their understanding. Selena and her team scrambled to find the source, but there were no answers. Was it the collective? Or was it another faction entirely? They had no way of knowing for sure. But what they did know was that their work had just become infinitely more dangerous. The message, the ship's warning, it all pointed toward a truth that was even more terrifying than they had realized. The collective wasn't just a destructive force that consumed star systems. It was far more insidious. It was a mind-consuming entity. The collective infiltrated the minds of entire species, twisting and corrupting them from within. It made them believe that their will was their own, when in truth, they were already lost. Their every thought, every action was manipulated. The collective's true power was not its ships or its armies. It was the way it consumed entire civilizations, turning them into hollow, obedient shells of themselves. As Selena pieced together the remnants of the ancient transmission, the implications of this revelation hit her like a freight train. The myth of humanity's lost fleet, the fleet that was supposedly wiped out by war, was not a myth at all. The fleet had been betrayed from within. Someone high-ranking within humanity's ranks, had allowed the collective to infiltrate their forces. They had allowed it to destroy humanity's strongest defense from the inside out. This betrayal had led to the fleet's destruction, and humanity, believing there was no hope left, had sealed away the truth. But the truth was now coming to light. At that moment, Selena's mission changed. It was no longer just about decoding messages or finding answers to questions buried in ancient alien texts. Now, it was about something far more urgent, ensuring that humanity's fleet, if it still existed, was located. And if there was any chance of saving it, bringing it to the front lines to fight back against the collective before it was too late. But things were far more complicated than she had hoped. The Wydar, the alien race that had sent the distress signal, were not the simple allies they seemed to be. They had their own motives, their own agendas. Selena had believed that they were offering their help, hoping to enlist humanity's fleet to help them in their fight. But as their leader, Exareth, spoke with her in private, the true nature of their intentions began to unfold. Exareth gave Selena an ultimatum: reveal the location of humanity's fleet to us, and together we can stop the collective. Keep this knowledge hidden, and you condemn us all to annihilation. Selena hesitated. This was not a simple decision. On the surface, it seemed like the right choice to work with the Wydar, but a nagging suspicion lingered in her mind. The Wydar's motives were not entirely pure. If they knew the location of humanity's fleet, could they be trusted to act in humanity's best interest? Or would they use it for their own gain, perhaps to further their own power in the galaxy? As Exareth left the room, leaving Selena with his words echoing in her mind, her thoughts were interrupted by a more immediate problem. One of her own team members, Dr. Ian Cray, had gone missing. Cray, a well-meaning diplomat who had worked closely with Selena, had always been a voice of reason within the team. But now, it seemed something had changed. When they finally found him, it wasn't in the place they had expected. Cray was in a hidden part of the station, sitting alone in front of a terminal. He was talking to someone, no, something. As Selena and the others approached, he looked up at them with a cold, distant gaze. "I'm sorry," Cray said softly, almost apologetically. "But I had no choice. I had to do it." "Do what?" Selena asked, fear creeping into her voice. "I've been in contact with the Wydar," Cray confessed. "I've been helping them. I know about the fleet. I was supposed to keep it hidden, but now I realize that's not the right choice. We can't let the collective destroy everything, but we can't trust the Wydar either." The betrayal hit Selena like a blow to the chest. Ian, someone she had trusted, had been secretly working with the very aliens they were now questioning. Worse, he had been acting as a liaison to the Wydar, feeding them information about humanity's past and the lost fleet. He'd been playing both sides, all while pretending to be part of the team. As Selena confronted him, a secondary mystery began to unravel. On one of the Wydar ships, she had discovered an artifact, an object that seemed to resonate with her presence. It was ancient, and yet something about it felt familiar. It seemed to react to her in ways she couldn't explain, sending strange flashes of memories she'd never experienced. Her mind filled with fragmented images of battles fought, of alliances broken, of a vast war that spanned centuries. She didn't understand why she was seeing these things, but she couldn't shake the feeling that somehow her past was intertwined with the war they were now facing. Was she connected to the greater galactic war in some way? Was there something hidden within her own memories that the artifact was trying to unlock? And most importantly, was she being manipulated, just like every species the collective had ever corrupted? The answers seemed closer than ever, but the danger was growing. With Cray's betrayal and the Wydar's true motives coming to light, Selena realized that finding humanity's fleet might not be the end of the story. It could be just the beginning of a much darker truth, one that would force her to question everything she thought she knew about the galaxy and about herself. The weight of the decision was almost too much for Dr. Selena Voss to bear. Standing at the edge of the control room, she stared at the stars outside, the infinite void of space stretching out before her. The room was silent, but her mind was anything but. She was trapped between two impossible choices, two paths that could not coexist. The Wydar had made their case clear. They needed humanity, needed her to fight the collective. Their desperation was palpable. They argued that the galaxy's survival depended on humanity's fleet, that only the combined strength of all races could stand a chance against the mind-consuming force of the collective. They painted a picture of a united front, an alliance of species working together to take down their common enemy. For a moment, Selena almost believed them, but the more she dug into the message, the more unsettling truths she uncovered. The collective's power wasn't simply in its strength. It wasn't about the number of ships or soldiers it controlled. It was far more insidious. The collective thrived on division. It didn't just invade planets, it invaded minds. It sowed chaos, distrust, and fear, breaking the spirits of entire species, twisting them from within. The more the galaxy fought among itself, the stronger the collective became. Every war, every conflict, every betrayal, each one played into the collective's hands. It was a revelation that turned Selena's world upside down. The path to victory wasn't just about defeating the collective in battle, it was about defeating the division within themselves. The galaxy had to unite not just in arms, but in spirit. If humanity joined the fight, it would not only make them stronger, it would give the collective a foothold in their minds. And that was the last thing they needed. As the truth began to take shape in her mind, everything she had believed about humanity's lost fleet and its destruction began to unravel. The stories had always pointed to betrayal. Someone within humanity had sold them out to the collective. But that wasn't the truth at all. The fleet hadn't been betrayed, it had been scattered on purpose. The core command of humanity's fleet had made a conscious decision to abandon the galaxy. It wasn't because they had lost the war, it was because they had realized the danger of unity. They had seen what happened when species joined together in the face of the collective. They saw how easily it could tear them apart. In a desperate move to protect the rest of the universe, the human fleet's leaders had chosen isolation. They sacrificed themselves, ensuring that humanity would not be a beacon of unity in the galaxy, but a scattered species, fragmented and hidden away, to prevent the collective from gaining further strength. It was a bitter, painful truth. Humanity's isolation had been a sacrifice, one that had cost them their place in the galaxy. And now, that sacrifice was at risk of being undone. Selena was torn. She couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. The Wydare had their own motives, their own plans for humanity. If she revealed the location of the fleet to them, they would use it, not just against the collective, but to manipulate humanity into joining their own cause. It was a dangerous game, one she wasn't sure she could win. But if she kept the secret, she would be keeping humanity isolated and vulnerable, and the Wydare would stop at nothing to use her to get what they wanted. As the political chaos on the station escalated, Selena's thoughts raced. She couldn't trust the Wydare. They were using her as a pawn, just as much as they were using humanity. She couldn't trust her own species, either, not after what she had uncovered about humanity's past. She had to act, and act quickly, before it was too late. The answer came to her in a flash of clarity. Instead of gathering the fleet and risking it being manipulated by the Wydare, Selena decided to reveal the truth not just to the Wydare, but to the entire galaxy. She would broadcast the location of humanity's fleet to all of the known species, to everyone, forcing the galaxy's races to unite against the collective. But she couldn't do it alone. She would need to convince them that unity was their only chance at survival, that they could no longer afford to fight among themselves. It was a dangerous move. By revealing the truth, Selena risked everything: her own life, her reputation, her future. But the galaxy's future was at stake, and she knew what she had to do. The moment she made the decision, she felt a shift within herself. It wasn't just about saving humanity anymore. It was about saving the galaxy, and perhaps something deeper, something far more personal. She had uncovered a terrifying truth about herself, something that had been buried deep within her subconscious. It was the artifact, the one she had discovered on the Wydare ship. It had reacted to her in ways she couldn't explain, triggering strange flashes of memories that felt ancient and alien. And then it hit her: she wasn't entirely human. She had always known she felt different, disconnected from the world around her. But this truth, this hidden memory, shattered everything she thought she knew about herself. The artifact had unlocked something deep within her. She wasn't just a scientist. She was part of an ancient, forgotten race, a species whose memories had been erased millennia ago. The revelation came as a blow. How could she reconcile this new identity with everything she had been fighting for? She was human in every sense of the word, but she wasn't entirely human. Her origins were tied to something much older, much more complex than she could have ever imagined. Now she faced a moral dilemma that cut deeper than anything she had ever encountered. Did she stand with humanity, knowing that they might reject her once they learned the truth? Or did she side with the Wydare, who saw her as a tool to manipulate humanity? The Wydare would use her to unite humanity under their banner, to bend them to their will. But if she did that, she would be betraying everything humanity stood for. As she prepared to reveal the truth to the galaxy, Selena realized the magnitude of the choice before her. It wasn't just about saving humanity anymore. It was about finding a place in a galaxy that was too divided, too broken to understand what she was offering. The question now wasn't whether she could unite the galaxy. It was whether she could reconcile the many parts of herself, the human and the alien, the past and the present, and make a choice that would determine the future of everything. The time for hesitation was over. The galaxy would learn the truth, whether they were ready for it or not. And so would she. The call had been made. Across the galaxy, the message had echoed, reverberating through the communication channels. reaching every corner of known space. Humanity's fleet, long thought lost in a mere myth, was awakening. But the fleet was not just a collection of ships. It was something far greater, something that transcended the concept of military power. It was a collective consciousness, an entire species, hidden away and waiting for the right time to rise again. Selena stood on the bridge of the wide-air ship, watching as the scattered remnants of humanity's fleet slowly began to reassemble. They moved as one, a silent, unified force that seemed to know exactly where it was headed, exactly what needed to be done. It wasn't just their ships that were reuniting. It was the very essence of humanity, its creativity, its adaptability, its resilience. Humanity, she realized, was more than just a race of survivors. It was a species that could transcend division. The true strength of humanity wasn't in its weapons or its technology. It was in its ability to understand, to create, and to adapt. It was something the collective could never replicate or understand, because the collective's very existence was based on conformity, on the absorption of all things into one singular consciousness. As the fleet regrouped, the humans began to display something entirely unexpected. They weren't relying solely on military tactics or brute force. Instead, they fought with unity and creativity. Where the collective saw only conflict and division, humanity saw opportunity. Where the collective was bound by rigid hierarchical structures, humanity embraced individuality. They created new ways of fighting, new methods of defense, new alliances, and new strategies. It was an approach that bewildered and infuriated the collective, a force that thrived on conformity and absorption. It couldn't comprehend the chaos of individual creativity, and in that chaos, humanity found its strength. The galaxy watched in awe as the human fleet, once fragmented and in hiding, began to push back against the collective. And as they fought, the truth about the collective itself began to unfold. In the final, decisive battle, Selena's mind was shattered by a revelation. The collective was not an external threat. It wasn't a foreign enemy coming to consume the galaxy. No, the collective was a perversion of something far older, something deeply connected to Selena herself. It was the twisted evolution of her own forgotten race, the ancient species whose memories had been erased long ago. The collective had begun as an attempt to transcend death, to achieve immortality, by absorbing all consciousness into one unifying force. It was the ultimate desire of her people to break the bounds of time and individual existence, to live forever. But instead of achieving immortality, they had created something else entirely, a mindless, insatiable force that consumed everything in its path. The war, the entire struggle, had been a cycle, a consequence of her race's failed attempt to escape death. Every galaxy, every civilization, every species that had been consumed by the collective had been a victim of that same flawed desire for eternal life. The collective wasn't just a threat to the galaxy, it was the result of a mistake that had begun long ago. And now, it was reaching its final catastrophic culmination. For Selena, the implications were staggering. Humanity's fight wasn't just to survive against the collective, it was to break the cycle of her ancestors' failure. Humanity's unique strength, its ability to embrace individuality, to choose life and death on its own terms, had become the key to stopping the collective, to ending the cycle of endless consumption and rebirth. The final battle was unlike anything Selena had ever imagined. As the human fleet advanced, it became clear that their victory wasn't going to come through firepower alone. It was in their unity, each individual ship, each individual mind, working together toward a singular goal, but each still retaining its own sense of self. This was the ultimate weapon against the collective, the very thing that it could never understand, the very thing it feared most. As the collective began to break apart, its unity dissolving under the pressure of humanity's unique brand of resistance, Selena felt a shift in the air, a heavy weight settling in her chest. The war was ending, but the cost was immeasurable. The galaxy had been saved, but at what price? In the midst of the chaos, Selena felt a deep, unsettling pull towards something inside her. It was the artifact, the object that had started this whole journey. As she touched it, a surge of memories flooded her mind, overwhelming her senses. She saw flashes of ancient civilizations, of her ancestors striving for immortality, and of her own existence, how her memories had been erased, how she'd been hidden away to protect humanity from the consequences of that ancient mistake. Now, in the wake of the collective's defeat, Selena stood at a crossroads. She had the chance to join her ancestors, to become part of the collective herself, an existence that transcended death, a consciousness that would live on forever. But there was a catch. To do so would mean surrendering her humanity, losing everything that made her unique, everything that made her alive. It would mean becoming a part of the very thing she had fought against, an entity that consumed individuality, that erased the beauty of personal sacrifice. The final question hung in the air. What does it mean to be truly alive? Selena's mind raced. She had fought for humanity's right to choose its own path, to fight against the tyranny of the collective. But now, faced with the temptation of immortality, she was forced to confront the very essence of what it meant to be human. Was immortality worth the price of losing one's identity? Was it worth the loss of individuality, of freedom, of the things that made life worth living in the first place? The answer was clear. Selena chose to remain human. She chose impermanence, the fleeting nature of life, and the beauty that came with it. The choice was not easy, and it came at a great personal cost. But in that choice, she found the strength to truly live. The galaxy celebrated its victory. Selena looked out at the stars, a sense of peace settling over her. The war was over. The collective was defeated. And humanity, with all its flaws and strengths, had won. But the true victory, Selena realized, wasn't just in defeating the collective. It was in the choice to embrace life, with all its pain, joy, and impermanence. The fate of the galaxy had been decided, but so too had the fate of one individual's soul. And in the end, it was that choice that mattered most.